and welcome to Talk of Hope, a podcast for people affected by lung cancer. I'm Rachel Avery.
And I'm Mandy Lucas.
Each episode we'll hear from people with different experiences of lung cancer, as well as healthcare professionals who will share what's going on to improve the diagnosis and treatment of this disease.
And as someone who's had lung cancer, I know exactly how terrifying that can be. But amongst all that fear and anxiety, there is also hope. And that's what we're choosing to focus on here.
So here we are, Mandy, season 2.
Wow, can't believe that.
Hasn't it flown?
I know, it's been great fun as well.
It has. We've met some incredible people, and I'm sure season 2 we're gonna chat to even more incredible people. By some weird coincidence, we're actually starting this new series with the same person we started the first series with, our wonderful Mel Erwin, who was our first ever guest on Talk of Hope. And the reason we've invited Mel back is because this week is a very exciting week for Mel and her partner Sarah. Not only is it Mel's birthday this week, but on Sunday, the pair of them are taking on the Tour de Force cycling challenge, raising money for Roycastle Lung Cancer Foundation and our research fellowship programme. So I feel like we need a drum roll, Mel, because this is a big week for you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Mel.
Thank you so much to see you both.
Let me just start by saying happy birthday before the actual day, but happy birthday from everyone here at Roycastle and all our listeners. And it's wonderful to have you back. And it's wonderful to have you back to kind of talk about something different to what we talked about last time. And that is the Tour de Force challenge. Now, I'm aware some people might not know what that is. So do you want to give us a little bit of an overview of what it is and why you've signed up for it?
For sure, yes, thank you. So you may or may not know, so Chris Hoy, 6-time gold Olympic medalist, sort of superstar of the cycling world, was sadly diagnosed with prostate cancer, I think actually 2 years ago this September, so now. So he has stage 4 prostate cancer. But because he is a man of great va-va-voom and energy and commitment, he has decided to create this, he calls it a mass participation event, this event called the Tour de Force, as in Tour de Force, but stage 4 cancer. And it's taking place this weekend, September the 7th, which also happens to be my 58th birthday, hooray, and also his daughter's birthday on the same day. So the purpose of this event that he has championed and rolled out and worked incredibly hard at, it's 3 things as far as I understand it. One is to really help change perception of what stage 4 cancer means, to dispel the myths that we're all about to pop our clogs. Obviously, stage 4 cancer, any cancer, not just lung, covers a broad group of people, and clearly, sadly, there are some people who are near the end of their lives. We know this. Yeah. And we know there are people who are in hospice care, and we know that there are people who are not well enough to take part in this kind of event. But increasingly, because of research and funding and more and better drugs and more awareness, there are many people like me and other people who are joining this event who are well enough to attempt a cycling ride, a sort of, charity cycle ride. So one thing is to raise awareness that people with stage 4 cancer can do extraordinary things, that we are capable of so much. So that's number one, which I am so inspired by. That's the first thing. The second is to raise funds for all these fabulous cancer charities like Roycastle Lung Cancer Foundation that do so many things and have so many different roles for people with cancer. So his target is to raise £1 million, and by golly, I suspect that between all of us we'll do it. So that is thrilling. And the third one, I think, it really touches my heart, this one, is to create community, and across the cancers as well, because we are all very much in a very similar boat, not the same. We all have similar fears, worries, concerns. We all have similar hopes and dreams. Yeah. So it's both ends. But it's really about creating connection and community and enthusiasm. And I checked it out on his website today. He does use the word hope. And we all know, you know, here we are, series 2, talk of hope, talk about hope. Mm-hmm. We know that hope is so essential. Reasons to be optimistic and hopeful and positive are really the things that give us the life force to keep going and to live as well as we possibly can with cancer, in my case, lung cancer. So this event was announced in February of this year, 2025. As soon as I saw it, I literally leapt off the sofa and said, we're doing that, Sarah. We're doing the Tour de Force. But here's the thing. I can't exaggerate enough how I am the least sporty person you may care to meet. So I do not identify as sporty. You know, a bit of yoga here, a bit of qigong there, 5,000 steps here, 10,000 steps there. But things that get the heart racing and working towards a challenge has never been my bag. And I cannot tell you how gleeful I am about this whole thing. I'm a new woman. So yeah, those are the 3 aims, and I'm beyond excited, and so are the very many other people who are taking part, and it takes place this Sunday in Glasgow, September 7th.
I mean, we've had you on the podcast before, but we've also had your partner Sarah on as well, just to talk about being a cancer co-pilot, which I just want to steal that phrase from you. And she touched on that moment when you saw the Tour de Force being advertised, and that we're doing this, and we joked about it. We're saying, did Sarah have much of a choice? And we were laughing because we know how passionate you can get. And me and Mandy were like, Sarah, you didn't have a chance to back out of this. This was written in the stars, wasn't it?
This was happening.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't even have a bike, can I just point out? She did at least have a bike. But yeah, it really, he is a man, I think, who is really changing the conversation around stage 4 cancer, to be out with stage 4 cancer.
I think whenever someone in the public eye gets a form of cancer, we saw it ourselves with Roy Castle himself. It really does put that spotlight on it. But I think when someone as athletic, as fit, as healthy, as a 6-time Olympic gold medalist, it really reminds us that no one is immune from cancer in general. And from our point of view, it's a message we constantly push for lung cancer, because of all the stigma that's associated with it, is no one's immune from lung cancer. And I think it initially helps people recognize that, and maybe makes people a little bit more aware of the risks. And I know when Sir Chris was diagnosed, the amount of people taking the prostate cancer UK risk calculator, using that, shot up, which again is fantastic, because making knowledge is power, and it's so important that people are more aware. So I think that's excellent. But as you say, Mel, changing the perceptions around what stage 4 cancer looks like. And it's again something that we try and do through a lot of our work, including this podcast, is a stage 4 diagnosis is not the same as end of life. There is still so much life that can be lived with a stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis. And little sneak peek, actually, that is what this year's Lung Cancer Awareness Month campaign is going to celebrate and focus on. And it's because of all the research that's being done, all the improvements being made, all the new treatments that are being made available, and we'll come on to that in a minute, because I know that's really, really important to you. But I'm really keen to hear a little bit about the training, especially given you've said, you know, you're not athletic, you're not sporty, didn't have a bike. Yeah, that's right, Mandy. Didn't have a bike. So I imagine the training has had its highs and its lows, and also the plan on the actual day, because I think there's 3 different distances people can opt into. Which have you opted into?
So there are 4 actually.
Oh, there's 4, sorry.
The top one is red, and that's 56.
The danger.
Yeah, wide, yeah. And no, I'm so impressed. So it's 56 miles, and I've seen on social media and the people who are all part of the Tour de Force community, you know, you've got older people doing it, you've got people who've had all sorts of different diagnoses and treatments and health conditions. And then, of course, you've got the kind of lycra crew. So obviously, Sir Chris Hoy is really loved and admired. He's a really fabulous human being, humble. And so I think galvanized lots of other sports people to show up. You know, so the red route is the one for people who are like, yes, I understand what lycra shorts are. I have a bike and I can get up those hills, come what may. That's red. I am that human. I am not red, but I am blue. I'm proud to be blue. So blue.
Roy Castle blue. It all fits together.
Right, exactly.
Could be anything else.
For that Roy Castle blue. So the blue ride is 37.5 miles, which is still a very long way. It's a long way, and I have 1.5 lungs. I'm on a cancer treatment drug. I'm nearly 58. You know, all of this kind of data about my body would indicate that 37.5 miles cycling around Glasgow, which is proper hills, by the way, around there, is a big challenge. And I knew it would be. So I started training on, I think, the day I signed up, which was March the 7th, and the ride is September the 7th. So I knew there was this 6 months window. I'm like, right, here we go. So
you bought a bike.
Got a bike.
Very good start.
Day 1, buy a bike.
But you a sort of rusty, I live not very good bike that I found in the garden shed. I think that's really important. You know, if you're thinking of cycling, there are things we need to consider, and one is you've got to have a safe bike with brakes that work and tires that are pumped properly, and you've got to be comfortable, and you know, we've got enough side effects. We don't also need a sore bum, so you need all of this to be taken into consideration. So I started off on that. It was clearly not up to the job. I then borrowed Sarah's, which meant we could only cycle solo, which didn't really work for me. So the first ride I did, I can tell you now, was 2.8 miles. I was really proud of myself. Think, how in the name of sweet Jesus above am I going to get to 37.5 miles? So 2.8, you know, around my local park, trying to avoid the ducks and get people pushing their buggies, and there was me sort of like an 8-year-old really. But over time and committing to the regular 3 times a week, and I have done it every week apart from one when I was on holiday and there was no bike available. Every week I've cycled 3 times. And I spoke to, I think this is another important point, I spoke to my oncologist. Is it okay for me to do this? Am I well enough? Is there anything I need to take into consideration? He said, you might well reach some plateaus where you're like, I can't push through. I can't get further. And he was absolutely right. For a while, I was sort of 5, 6, 7 miles, and I couldn't really manage anymore. And then I got to 10, very proud of myself. Then I got to 15, super proud of myself. Eventually I got to 20, and I was beside myself with glee, like 20 miles, like a proper actual athlete in my lycra. Here I am, a cyclist, and I've got stage 4 lung cancer. And the longest I've done is 26 miles. But I have
to. A marathon.
It's a long way, but I have to say we do take breaks. You know, I'm not like get on bike and off I go for 26 miles. You know, croissants are involved, chocolate. There are pit stops.
You have to hear it.
You know, so I need fuel. I need the confidence from my team that I'm well enough to do it, because it's a big old commitment. And on the actual ride, it's 1,700 feet of uppy incline. I'm calling them mountains, but that's quite a lot of up, and I haven't done that amount of up. So I'm just hoping that it's not one hill of 1,700 feet. It's accumulation of that over the ride.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, Mandy. Thank you.
Even if it's over like 10 different hills, that's still.
But it's the constantness of it, because just when you think you've got to the top, you're like, okay, yeah, okay. Oh no, there's another bit now. So it's
another one.
Oh. So it's a mental challenge as well, knowing you've got that's the course and that's ahead of you.
It's a mental challenge, but equally, there is something deeper going on with this whole training schedule and getting on a bike. And that is that cancer itself is all about navigating the ups and downs. Now, with cancer, the ups are the wins, aren't they? And the downs are the struggles. But with cycling, it's the other way around. The ups are the struggle, and the down, we're like, woohoo, freewheeling down. So
you do love a metaphor, Mel, don't you? You do love a metaphor.
You're so good at them. It's not even funny.
It's so similar to how we have to face our lives as people with cancer, which is we're in it for the wins, and somehow or other we have to deal with the dips. And the dips come in all sorts of different ways. They might be actual physical ones. They might be emotional ones. It might be a mental challenge dealing with cancer. It might be you have a friend who's been diagnosed with progression or worse. And so there's something about actually navigating the challenge of cycling, the ups, the downs, the physiological ups and downs, that feels quite beautiful, actually, because really, if I can deal with chemotherapy and the things we talked about, Mandy, last time, do you remember in the podcast about the monstrosity that chemo can be for some people, and it was for us.
Yeah.
If we can do that, if I can get through that, if I can get through lung surgery, if I can get through COVID and the isolation, I can blooming well get up and down those hills. And I can definitely... Mountains, sorry, yes. I can definitely get across the Pyrenees of Glasgow. So there's more going on than just the actual ride, and the other.
It's significant, isn't it? It's very significant.
It is. It's significant. It's symbolic, and also there's something amazing, about being in motion, because when you're sick and when you're recovering, you're really still.
Yeah.
You're anxious to move. You don't trust your body anymore. You don't know how far you can walk. You're not sure if you can get up the stairs. We lose trust and we lose the ability to move. And when you're on a bike, you are moving, your legs are moving, but you're pedaling, but you're also on a thing that is also moving. So it's double motion. You've got your motion as your wheels turn the pedals, but at the same time, you are moving across time and space, and you're looking around you at the beauty of the world in a way that wasn't available to you when you didn't have motion. And that is an extraordinary feeling. And that is a gift. And that is the gift that he has given Sir Chris Hoy, because I know I joke about not being sporty, but I wouldn't have had the confidence to even consider training for something like this. It would not have occurred to me.
I think confidence, particularly with cycling more than anything else, I think, anyone can kind of put on a pair of semi looking like running shoes and go for a jog around the block. But I think there is something with cycling that, certainly for me, I don't know about you, Mandy, but there's a bit of a mental block with it. I mean, I don't have a bike either, so that, again, hurdle one. But I don't know, I think there seems like there's an added danger or risk factor with cycling. And you see it yourself when you see cyclists on the road. I get very nervous as a driver. Make sure you give them a very wide berth. Then there's all the kind of maintenance side of it. Or what if I get a puncture? What if I come off my bike? What if? So I think, yeah, I think as well as all the wonderful perception changes this challenge that Sir Chris has set up is doing, I think it may also be breaking down those barriers, those confidence barriers with cycling, and maybe opening a whole new audience to cycling.
It's a really, really good point there. And I think I felt that way. I mean, I still do feel nervous cycling on roads, but I think there's a few things to say. One is, of course, a safe bike and a helmet. I know it's obvious, but not everybody wears them. So absolutely, you need a bike that is serviced and working well. You need a helmet. You need to know what to do when you get to a roundabout or a right turning. You actually need to be safe. Cycling with someone has really helped me. So once I had a bike, then I felt I actually was donated a bike by a bike company, which was incredibly generous. Well, I was really lucky. White Bikes are a bike company, a British one actually, who I think mostly do mountain bikes, but they've got some fabulous road bikes. Anyway, they saw my plight, the fact that I was borrowing Sarah's bike, and they really generously gifted me a bike for the Tour de Force. And I honestly, when I found out I was on a train journey, burst into tears. I burst into tears and just felt so moved. You know, the generosity of others is a very moving thing, isn't it? So I think cycling with somebody, but equally, it very much depends where you live. You know, I live in London. We have cycle lanes. We have something called cycle superhighways. Incredible. So they're literally a lane, almost like a little road purely for bikes. But if I'm perfectly honest, most of my cycling is canal paths, parks. You know, I find a workaround. I do not cycle on A roads. It's just one, the
dangerous.
Two, the danger. So, and the velodrome, there's also, of course, we have the Olympics in London and East London. And the legacy of that is that we have the most incredible facilities. And one of those is the velodrome, the very velodrome, in fact, where lots of medals were won in 2020. So going there, not in the velodrome, because frankly, that's not quite the level I'm at, but around it is a road, a pathway, a road for cyclists. And of course, you've then got no cars, no other bicycles, no, you know, anybody, passengers, pedestrians, sorry, people walking their dog, just cyclists all going in the same direction. So that has also been super helpful. But I have, of course, had moments of anxiety and tears and like, I can't do this, I'll never be ready. But 6 months later, I am ready. And if I have to get up and push it up hills, you know, I'm not going to be penalised. So Chris Hoy isn't going to take my medal away because someone spotted me walking up a hill. I will not be the only one. There will be many of us. You know, it is a ride, it's not a race. There will be so many fellow humans who are cancernauts, who are enthusiastic about cycling, want to do this event, want to be part of this sort of festival of life, but cannot cycle up big hills. So we'll hop off and have a little natter and a giggle, walk up the hill and then roll down the next one. So, you know, I think it will be a really unique and sort of special event with, I suspect, laughter, tears, and friendships being formed.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing thing, isn't it? Can you imagine thousands of people with stage 4 cancer coming together to go on a bike ride?
It's incredibly powerful.
It actually is. It's
Yeah.
quite remarkable what he and his team have done. So, yeah.
We have fundraising challenges for all abilities. From 5k runs to month-long challenges you can make your own. Get those endorphins pumping and raise some vital funds along the way. Visit roycastle.org/events to find your perfect challenge.
We said at the beginning, you have lots of reasons for kind of signing up, but one of them really was about helping to fund research. Why is this so important to you? I mean, it sounds like a silly question to read it out because, you said when we were talking initially, it's because of research that a challenge like this can actually even happen now, because the advances and the improvement that have been made with living with stage 4 cancer are huge than where we were, particularly with lung cancer, even kind of 10 years ago. But research is something you're so incredibly passionate about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a few points. One is that lung cancer is often one of the least funded cancer research groups. And I don't have the answers for why that is the case. You probably know more about it than I do. But I know that when I see various drug combinations or new treatment plans that are maybe immunotherapy or targeted therapy or chemo and targeted therapy, all these new combinations that have been through trials, that mean that people like me and others with other types of lung cancer, not just mine, can now access drugs that not only extend our lives, but allow us to live well. So a targeted therapy drug is so very much less toxic than a chemotherapy drug for most people. And that's, a generalization. I'm sure there are many people who have adverse reactions to targeted therapy, and there are people who handle chemotherapy well. But it gives us options and choices. And what we need, the drug I'm on now is called Tagrisso. It wasn't available when I was first diagnosed in 2020. I've only been on it for a year and a bit, but it will stop working. My body will develop resistance to this drug. I need more options. What do we tell people like me who in 2-3 years time, we don't know how long, 2, 3, maybe 8 years, my body resists the drug? What next? And we need more options so that people can carry on living, truly living with lung cancer. And without those trials and the research that happens to make those trials possible, our choices are limited. And there are some lung cancers that are less well researched than others, and one of them is lung. And so I feel so passionately about it. Through social media and lung cancer charities like Roy Castle, I meet so many people. I meet people who are in their 70s, 80s, 90s. I meet people tragically in their 20s. All of us deserve the opportunity to live for as long as we possibly can, and as well as we possibly can. And without research, if funding into research is halted, like it's happening in the US right now, if it's halted or stopped altogether, it's almost like giving us a death sentence.
It is. It's what our charity was built on, this need for lung cancer research. Because historically, as you said, lung cancer has been underfunded for decades. Thankfully, we are seeing a corner being turned, and it is finally receiving what we feel it warrants, given the amount of people that it affects. And I think, obviously the advances in treatment, we're seeing, new treatments coming thick and fast, and with that, so much hope. And for people like yourself, Mel, who inevitably know that the treatment they're on isn't going to last forever, but having the safety net of a second line treatment, a third line treatment, a fourth line treatment is priceless.
Yeah.
And then the other side of research, which we tend to focus on, is kind of almost like the holy grail of research, and that's early detection. It's how do we find this disease far, far earlier when we can treat it and we can cure it. And I think, that's what we've looked at for decades, and our work in laying the foundation for lung cancer screening has now come to fruition, which is fantastic. And now it's about what can we do to help more people get diagnosed earlier. And it was back in 2012, same year as the Olympics, that we started to fund our research fellowship program. And this was all about generating the next wave of lung cancer researchers, the next experts in their field. And I'm really excited to say that we've just appointed our latest fellow, Dr. Roya Baruzzi, and they have put together a research project which, Mel, the money you're raising is going towards. I know that was really, really important to you. Thankfully, I've got kind of a layman's summary of what this research is, because a lot of the time you read it and it's very, very clever, lots of big words, and they go straight over my head. So the background is looking at kind of the liquid biopsy, from what I can understand. And at the moment, we've made fantastic progress with liquid biopsy in helping to diagnose later stage cancers faster. We did a podcast actually with Professor Alistair Greystoke and Yvonne Diaz on this piece of research that had been done, which was very, very exciting and can really help people be diagnosed and start on targeted treatments much sooner. But the problem that happens with liquid biopsies, and again, I just want to caveat this, that I am not a medic, but it works with patients whose lung cancer has spread outside of their chest. And that's because these tumours are large enough and they release lots of cancer DNA into the blood. With early stage lung cancer, the tumours are very small, and so there's little amounts or even no cancer DNA released into the blood. And so it's not currently reliably possible to diagnose early stage lung cancer by what we call cell-free DNA testing of the blood. What Dr. Baruzzi is looking to do is see if there is a way to use this, it's called cfDNA testing, to benefit patients with early stage lung cancer, so helping people get diagnosed sooner and start on treatments earlier. And it's potentially really exciting because it could change the way that we diagnose lung cancer. At the moment, the best route to diagnose this diagnostic technology we've got is CT scanning. But if we can find a way to draw blood and the liquid out of these cells, then that potentially opens up a world of possibility. It can reduce anxiety, it can avoid people getting more unwell as they're waiting for treatments and their actual diagnosis. And most importantly, it could catch it at a stage that's then treatable and curable. So it's really, really exciting. And then, we wanted to have Dr. Baruzzi on today because she would have explained it a lot better than I just have. But it's a very exciting project for us to be involved in, and it's made possible because of people like you, Mel, who support us.
It's wonderful to hear, actually, that the new person has been appointed, and I really look forward to reading the summary. Like you say, sometimes it's in too much detail for us layish people to understand. But what I hear from what you're saying really resonates with me because two reasons. One, when I was at a previous hospital, I actually had a liquid biopsy and it didn't show anything. And at my second hospital, even though we knew I probably had progression across both lungs, they couldn't do a tissue biopsy because my tumours were too small.
Yes.
So there was no way they could confirm that my cancer had progressed. And as far as we know, mine is just within the lungs. So what you're saying about if it hasn't progressed outside the lungs, actually there aren't enough what's called circulating tumour cells for them to be able to identify it through a liquid biopsy. I actually funded for myself a liquid biopsy in the hope that I could avoid having a tissue biopsy because it's an invasive procedure. But again, the second one also didn't prove fruitful. It didn't show any circulating tumour cells. But, a few weeks later, I had a tissue biopsy, which is not the most pleasant of experiences. And it confirmed that, yes, in fact, the cancer was back. But what it couldn't confirm was the mutation. So there wasn't enough tissue. They didn't have enough. There were too few cells, essentially, to be able to confirm that it was both. They knew it was non-small cell lung cancer, but they couldn't confirm that it was EGFR positive, as my first one had been. And actually, the only reason that we know that it is that is because I've been taking the drug, Tagrisso, that is for EGFR positive lung cancer, and my tumours are shrinking. So we found out incidentally, not through a liquid biopsy, not even through a tissue biopsy, and certainly not through a CT scan, because CT scans can't identify mutations. They can only say whether or not you have.
I didn't know that, Mel. I didn't know that you'd never had an official EGFR positive diagnosis. I find that really interesting.
First time I did. So when I was diagnosed in 2020, it was clear that they took out a tumour. It's big enough to be able to identify. So they work on the assumption that when it's expressed, it's EGFR. They would have liked to have taken enough sample to be able to confirm, but because I'm responding to the drug, we know that it is. But if there were a liquid biopsy, that could have, one, identified it in the first place in 2020, and two, when I had progression, that they would have been able to tell immediately that I had a recurrence, and equally what the mutation was. It would have made a huge difference to me, and I would have had my drug earlier. If you can't have the drug until it's confirmed that it's back.
Yes.
So that's a really important piece of research in terms of not just early diagnosis, but also progression diagnosis.
It's cell-free DNA testing. So cfDNA testing is the correct terminology for it. So I don't want listeners to get liquid biopsies and this type of testing mixed up, but it's the drawing of blood and liquids to then ultimately test.
Yeah, interesting. So it's different to the existing ones, in fact.
Yes. So it's further improvements, adding more tools to our armory in diagnosing and treating this disease.
So important. And so the whole research and kind of clinical trials and analysis and work that this person is doing, alongside also awareness raising, because the amount of people I meet online who say, I had a shoulder pain, I had neck pain, I had lower back pain, I did not have a cough, I did not have recurrent chest infections, and it took ages for my diagnosis to come through because nobody suspected that as, for example, a woman in her early 30s who had no history of smoking, no one suspected I might have lung cancer.
Yeah.
And that's,
we've heard that so often,
isn't it? That's the tragedy of the situation.
Yeah, it is a difficult one though, because in terms of the risk, the reality of it being lung cancer in that circumstances is so small. It's obviously not impossible, and that it's clearly messages we want to get out there and raising awareness and challenging the misconceptions. but it is a tough one. If we're being brutally honest, it is a hard nut to crack, because the chances of it actually being lung cancer in those circumstances is so small. But if we could have a test as simple as a blood test, and I know there's lots of research going on about things like this, to try and identify blood biomarkers and everything, not just in lung cancer, across the board with cancers, then, if you go to your doctors and you're feeling fatigued and run down, and they send you for all these different types of blood tests to check for, iron levels and thyroid and all of this, if they can just throw that into the mix as well, that is a real game changer. And it doesn't feel like we're millions of miles away from this.
Yeah, that's so exciting. That is a game changer for humanity, because to be able to just have that as a routine test when you, like you say, you feel a bit run down, doctor said the first thing they do is send you for a blood test. If that's part of the blood test, I mean, what an absolute game changer that would be.
Thanks to research and advances in treatment, more and more people are living well for longer with all forms of lung cancer. Read their incredible stories on our website, roycastle.org, and get in touch to share yours.
So back to race day.
Yes.
How are we feeling? So we're 5 days away, 6 days away, 5 days away?
It's on Sunday. So yes.
Yes. Wow.
I'm going
up. So travelling up Saturday?
No, we're travelling up on Thursday.
Oh, lovely.
Glasgow is a wonderful city, and it gives us time to kind of settle and eat lots and lots of carbs, and just get a sense of what we're up to. We've bought ourselves, we ordered them online, new cycling tops with a Roy Castle logo on the front and Tour de Force on the back. I've got gold sparkly nails that match the Tour de Force logo. And we're still fundraising. So I've been quite relentless in my pursuit of hitting that target. The target is £10,000. It's a lot of money, but we are really so close to it. And I think for all the people who are riding in the Tour de Force, whether we're raising £500, £50, £10,000 or more, each donation, however small, makes the biggest difference, not just to the actual fund itself and the charity, but psychologically. You have this feeling of, like, gosh, it's so moving when you see. I've never done fundraising before related to an activity that I would do, and you really feel the kind of love, I guess, and the support and the championing behind you.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say is that for me, the movement, I could come back to this term motion, being in motion, but cancer is incredibly traumatic as an experience, and it lingers in your body. It hides in the crevices of your body for weeks, months, years. It never leaves you. For me, there was something about being on a bike and my lungs and my heart and my legs, my nervous system, everything working in synchronicity, that has been incredibly moving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it will make me cry talking about it, because so long I was stuck. I was going through the motions of life, and I was doing it, and I was happy. I grab life. I'm an incredibly positive person. I don't have to work that hard at being positive, because every day is a gift to be seized. But there was still hiding deep in my left lung trauma, and something about waking my body up, rebooting my nervous system, and things working. Like, I'm so proud of my body. In this
victory, and you can still do this. Not even 2 lungs.
Not even.
And you can still do it. It's incredible. Yeah, you're in awe of your own body, which is amazing.
And it's emotional, you know, it's emotional, that healing and that kind of connection that you start to have again, like not just saying the words, I trust my body, but really feeling like I can trust my body. I don't have to feel panicked if my heart rate goes up. I don't have to feel nervous if my legs are aching, because that's normal if you're riding a bike. So I think there's been a certain level of healing that has taken place through this process of training that is so much more than the sum of its parts, really. Yeah,
I think it goes back again actually to something Sir Chris Hoy said when you were on the BBC Breakfast sofa with him, Mel. Let's just throw that in, because you joined Sir Chris on the BBC Breakfast sofa to talk about the Tour for a few months ago, and it was about the importance of exercise. And I think we can talk about the physical side of it, but the emotional side of it as well, the mental benefits of getting out and exercising, and particularly something like cycling, where you're out in the fresh air, in the sunshine, hopefully, in beautiful parks, down canal paths, in nature. There's something very healing about that in itself.
Yeah.
So the mental and emotional side of it is so important, but we're actually really starting to understand the physical benefits. And I know that sounds a very silly, obvious thing to say, because obviously the physical benefits of exercise are very apparent. But there was a study recently, and it was for a different type of cancer, I believe. I think it was colon cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked at the impact of exercise, I think, on recurrence and longer term survival. And it found that in colon cancer patients, those that exercised more reduced their risk of recurrence and lived longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the stats were really impressive. And yes, it's a different cancer, but this is the study that we've got that shows that it wasn't just exercise, actually. It was structured exercise with a coach, if you like, a sort of, not necessarily a physio, but part of a program.
Like a PT.
We all know, it's so easy, isn't it, to go, oh, I'll just do my physio or go for a walk, but there's something about the structured approach to it which meant that people committed to it more. Mm-hmm. And the data, you know, it's something in the range of 28% and 35%, something like that, in terms of reduction in recurrence and reduction in the number of deaths. It's really potent. And I think Sir Chris Hoy quoted his doctor, didn't he, on BBC Breakfast, and said that if you could put exercise in a pill, it would be one of the most potent things that we have to combat cancer. Like, that's remarkable, isn't it? And this is what has never been sporty. So I really feel, you know, we're all doing our best when you have cancer. At the beginning, you're in shock, terror, then you're in treatment. Then you're in a process of trying to accept, trying to recover, whatever that might look like for you. You can't exercise when you've just had chemotherapy. Most people can't. I'm sure some can. In fact, I know that Sir Chris Hoy did, because I read his autobiography.
But not everyone's a 6-time Olympic gold medalist.
Not how mere mortal. It's not how most people. But actually, there comes a time where you are able to walk around the block and then walk around the garden, and whatever your sport is, it might be swimming, it might be jogging, it might be cycling, it might be basketball. It's just finding something that lifts your spirits, that helps you breathe better, that gets the oxygen moving around your body, that gets all those feel-good hormones circulating. Yeah.
I think if you can find some form of exercise that you do genuinely, thoroughly enjoy. So me and my husband, we go and play tennis. We're not good. In fact, we're awful. We try and go when we know no one else is going to be there, because we're going to disrupt other people's games, because the balls are flying everywhere, except for in the court and over the net. But we love it, and it's funny, and we're chasing down balls, and we're getting the heart rate going, and we're laughing at each other. and it's joyful, and it doesn't feel like exercise because we're enjoying it so much as well. So there isn't that kind of, oh, got to go to the gym today feeling that sometimes you can be facing. And I think the other thing that I picked up on when you were talking, Mel, about committing to a challenge is a really positive way, or an easier way, to try and keep you focused. I know a few years ago I did one of our swimming challenges, and it was swimming the distance, it was called, and you do it throughout November. Pick your distance. It can be anything because it caters to all abilities. I'm a pretty competent swimmer. I love swimming. So I chose to swim a marathon over the course of November. So it was over 1,600 lengths I had to do in 30 days. And because I committed to it, and because I told everyone in work I was doing it, so I was held accountable to it, you have to do it. And having that structure, like you were saying, and that routine makes it easier to stick to.
Yes.
So I think it's worth mentioning to anyone listening who maybe has been inspired. I would imagine they've been inspired talking about Mel taking on this challenge. There's lots of these sorts of challenges on our website. You know, there's scheduled runs, but there's also these month-long challenges that can fit anyone's age and ability and, you know, stage of cancer. So do go and check those out. Start somewhere, yeah. So we've got a walking challenge starting throughout October. So, and also with the swimming challenge in November, obviously November, the weather's not great. Sometimes the last thing you want to do, I mean, I didn't swim outside, I swam in a pool, but even then the last thing you want to do is go out in the rain, get to the gym, get changed into your cosy, and then get changed out of it, and it's miserly and everything. But I had to do it. I had to do it because I said I was going to do it. So we've got an October walking challenge that's you can find out more details on the website roycastle.org, and that's a really good place to start, and it gets you out and it gets you in the fresh air.
I agree. And also, often these kind of challenges have a community group or a Facebook group.
They do. Yes.
So you also have that, like, oh, I've just done this and I went this far, and I didn't really manage. You really encourage one another and motivate one another. So you've got that sort of added sense of team about it. But equally, I think if you are taking on a challenge like the Tour de Force, there's something about as well that celebration at the end. You know, I know that at the end of if I make it, and I'm like sort of I'll be dragged to the finish line by my sons who are coming to support us, and I absolutely will make it. But once I've got that medal around my neck and I've had a good old cry about, you know, everything as a release, there's a party. You know, we're all going to the velodrome, surprise guests, food, conviviality, all these people that you haven't met in the real world, you've only met online, but to get to meet, you know, I've made friends with an amazing woman called Christine. She has a different cancer to me. She is a below the knee amputee. She's doing the same ride as I am. And, you know, we've become friends. We've chatted on the phone. And this is just, that is such a gift to meet new people in different situations to you, but you've got this kind of common thread, and that you're going to a big party. Okay, you've got to cycle first, but you know, you're going to celebrate being alive. You're not going to commiserate about having cancer. You're going to celebrate. And it's called the Tour de Force, but I also think of it as a tour de force.
Absolutely. Yes.
You need that, you know, tour de life force. You need to sort of power through, and that powering through is what we're often doing with cancer anyway. You're powering through with your life force, and here's another opportunity to do it.
Very
so
true.
I can't wait, and I'll be wearing my Roy Castle top with pride.
I want photos. I want photos of you coming over the line. I want all the photos, please.
They'll be there. They'll all be on.
I will be waiting.
Away from me.
It's amazing what you're doing.
We can't finish without giving a shout out to the fundraising page, because, you know, like you say, you've set yourself an incredible target of £10,000. You're very nearly there. If there's anyone listening that wants to donate, do you know the fundraising page link, Mel, or we can put it at the end of the podcast?
I don't know off by heart, but yeah, if you could put it in the notes, that would be amazing. And
absolutely,
you know, if we had like 50 people who could give £10, then we're nearly there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's people's generosity is moving, and some of the most moving ones are people that we don't actually know. Like, isn't that just so moving if somebody sees your story and is somehow rather affected because of their own life story to contribute to something that will make a difference to people with lung cancer?
Just full of admiration or inspired by what you're doing, which I think a lot of people will be. I certainly am. That would move you to sponsor somebody as well, I think. Just admiration for the fact that you have 1.5 lungs and you're cycling how far? 37 miles?
7.5 miles up and down yonder vale and dale of
That's inspirational. And there's a lot of people doing it. As you mentioned, Christine, who is a below the knee amputee, blows my mind. Absolutely incredible. What an absolutely amazing thing.
It's going to happen next year as well. So see you there, babe. See you there.
Is that the time?
You heard it here first, guys. So we'll probably be on season 4 of Talk of Hope by then. Our special guest today is Mandy, who is cycling next week in the Tour de Force challenge.
Look, one step at a time. I might do the walking challenge next month. Let's start there and see where I get to.
I like it.
Plenty of time to build up to it. Plenty of time.
Exactly.
Mel, it's been a delight as always.
Thank you both.
The biggest cheer. I wish I could come and cheer you on and give you a massive hug at the end, but we are all absolutely rooting for you. You're gonna smash it.
I'll do you proud, and as will Sarah. We'll do you proud.
I was going to say, and Sarah.
Our motto is keep the wheels turning. That's the thing. It doesn't matter how slowly you're going in life or on a bike. We just need to keep our wheels turning.
Keep going forward.
Keep moving forward.
Keep going forward. Absolutely. Good luck. And we will speak to you soon. Take care.
Take care. Lovely to see you. Bye.
You have been listening to Talk of Hope from Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation. For support and advice about any of the topics covered in this podcast, visit roycastle.org. Talk of Hope is a fortnightly podcast with new episodes released every other Tuesday. Like and subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode.